Welcome back. In today's society, some people who feel down are quick to take a pill. But are they really depressed? Or are they just sad? Life coach and author Chandra is here to explain the differences between clinical depression and sadness. Well, welcome back, Chandra.
Thank you. Nice to see you again.
Nice to see you, too. Let's start right off with some of the points that you brought for us to talk about. Depression is different than sadness. Depression results when you do not deal with your sadness. Now explain that for us.
I think that what happens is that we use those two terms interchangeably, and that's not correct. There is an absolute difference between depression and sadness. Depression results when you do not feel your sadness, when you do not deal with your sadness. So as you stuff those feelings of sadness and you don't feel them, they grow and they grow and they grow, and one day you wake up and you're depressed. And the problem is that when we go to a physician or we go somewhere and we say, I feel sad, the assumption is that you're depressed, and that is absolutely not correct.
Totally different things. Life is a mixture of both happy and sad. This is normal and this is natural.
Right. I think that what happens is that somehow along the way, we get the message that it's abnormal to be sad, that there's something wrong with being sad. Actually, when you look at a day and you look at life and you look at what it is to be human, there's as many opportunities in a day to be sad as there is to be happy. When you lose something, when you have an expectation and it doesn't come through, when you get sick, when you lose people you love. I mean, there's all kinds of things that happen that make you sad, the same way there's all kinds of things that happen that make you happy. And you have to be able to embrace all of life. There is nothing wrong with being sad.
Yeah, right. Every day, a gamut of emotions.
That's a gamut of emotions. There's nothing wrong with being sad.
We are taught that sadness is bad, so we end up being ashamed and stuffing our feelings away.
Well, I think this is some of the stuff you and I talked about. As a child, you know, our parents think that they're doing us a favor by saying, hey, snap out of it. You know, there's no reason to be sad. There is a very, very fine line between having a positive attitude in life and not feeling your feelings, okay? It's okay to say to somebody, you know what, if you're sad, cry it out, let's talk about it. That doesn't mean that you embrace a negative way of living in the world. But what happens is that we think that there's something wrong with us because we're sad. And then we become ashamed, and then we hide those feelings. And this has a layering sort of effect where all of a sudden then we don't deal with anything, and then we wake up one day and we are depressed.
It's so nice to have somebody acknowledge your sadness and say it's okay. And I honestly didn't hear that very often when I was growing up.
I don't think...
Okay, well, look, you know, everything will be fine.
Everything will be fine. And you want to know something? Everything may not be fine, but everything might be fine if you're allowed to feel this stuff and you're allowed to work through it.
It is appropriate to be sad because sometimes things are sad. People die, they get sick, our hearts get broken. We've all had our heart broken at some point, and I know you can feel some really bad during that time, to the point where you're sad for a couple of days. But still, it's sadness.
You have to feel your sadness. You have to grieve in order to move from one experience to another. If you've had a loss, if you've had a disappointment, if your heart has been broken, what happens when you grieve, when you feel your sadness? You actually break up the barnacles that are sitting on your heart. Because if over a period of a lifetime you think that you're not supposed to feel sad, you stuff that sadness, and every time you stuff it, it gloms onto another part of sadness, and then you get hard and you don't open because you're so afraid of being hurt.
Right.
You understand? So you have to be willing to grieve. Oprah calls it the ugly cry. You know that real ugly...
Oh, I've had it. I've cried myself into dehydration.
Well, you want to know something? It's very, very important. What I tell my clients is that when the sadness comes to you, you know how it comes up and you feel it in your throat and then you kind of push it back down because you think, I don't want to go there? What you have to do is you have to invite it in. When I cry and I'm sad, I think to myself, everything that you can cry about, Chandra, just throw it into that. just throw it into that one big cry and just let it rip.
Right.
Because the more you can cry, the more it breaks that stuff up.
That's true. Have a lot of tissues nearby.
Right.
Antidepressants take away the anxiety, but keep us numb. You must feel in order to get healthy.
Okay, here's the deal. Nobody should call and say, you're not a doctor, who are you, all that, because I know I'm not a doctor and I'm not coming from a medical perspective. But I see people every single day. And I'm not saying that if you can't get out of bed, you shouldn't take a pill.
Right.
If you can't get out of bed and you need an antidepressant, that's fine. But I can't tell you the number of people who come to me and say, I went to my doctor, before I even got out, I'm whatever. Take Zoloft, take Elavil, take Paxil. What happens is you can't even access the feeling. In order to move on, in order to have a healthy life, you have to be able to feel. What happens with antidepressants is it takes care of the anxiety. So when you go someplace and you say you don't feel good, what you're really feeling is anxious. What you're really feeling is nervous. You're not even feeling your sadness. You haven't even gotten to it yet. The anxiety covers the feelings. So when you take a pill, what happens is you get rid of the anxiety, but it pushes the feelings back down. Now, what happens is over a period of time, when someone says, adjust your medication, I've never heard about adjusting it down. Have you?
No.
Okay, there you go.
Okay. Well, are you sad or depressed? Do give us a call at 1-800-664-8808 and do talk to Chandra about it. Chandra Alexander. We're taking your calls at 1-800-664-8808. We have a call right now from Carol in Palm Harbor. Welcome to the program, Carol.
Good morning.
Good morning, Carol.
I have been on antidepressants since about 1988 when a whole bunch of things just fell apart all at the same time.
Okay.
I resisted taking them, and all I could do, I was very ineffective. I could only sit around and cry.
Okay.
I've been on them. I resist taking medication, but every time I go off, I become very ineffective again. There's one question. Number two question, can a diagnosis back at that time, which was depression, be changed currently? There's manic depression. There's all kinds of different terms.
Okay, here's the thing. This is the first thing I want to tell you and make very clear, okay? I am not a medical doctor. I am telling you this from professional lay opinion from my private practice and the people that I've seen over the last 25 years, okay?
Certainly.
Okay, here's the deal. Things become worse over time if you don't deal with them. Okay? What happens when you take antidepressants is you have trouble accessing how you really feel because there's sort of a numbness that takes away the anxiety. I talked to a psychiatrist the other day. She called me and said, do you have people that you can possibly refer to me? And I basically said to her, look, I am not, I don't agree for the most part in medicating people. She said, actually, Chandra, I agree with you. She said, because what I try to do is get everybody off medication because you have to feel some sort of angst. Are you with me?
Yes.
Are you with me?
I would love to be off it. I just do not operate well when I go off.
Here's the thing. I don't know what you're taking, and I don't want to get into it now. I mean, you can email me, but the way to get off antidepressants is incrementally. You almost have to trick the body into believing that you're still taking them. So sometimes it takes, you've been taking them for a very long time. Sometimes it takes 6 months in order to do it. Maybe at the beginning you just break it in half and then take that every day for a period of a month. Then you break that in half and take that. You understand what I'm telling you?
Yes.
That's how you do it. Okay? I can't tell you what to do. But if you have a desire to get off of this, my suggestion is you get on the internet, you begin to read some stuff. You can do this, okay?
I I've gone on the internet quite a bit.
Okay. Why don't you email me or go to my website? You can post a question on my Q&A, and I'll be happy to answer you there as well, okay?
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. It's a pleasure.
You know, Chandra, you talked earlier about, if you can't get out of bed, that's a totally different situation.
That's a totally different thing.
And I've been there. I know somebody, I actually, a good friend of mine, her mother, I used to go to her house as a child.
Right.
And it would be every fourth day, Mom would be up in bed and not come down the whole day. And that went undiagnosed for a long, long time. And
Right.
finally, she was diagnosed with being manic depressive and got the help that she needed. But that's totally different
That's
situation.
a totally different thing. I have a client that has been on antidepressants for the last 10 years, and he came to see me. And I said to him, you know what? I said, by being in this therapeutic situation with me, you're learning the tools in order to feel. I mean, your feelings are not frightening you the way they did before. I said, are you willing over a period of time? I saw him for about the last 4 months. He came to me last week. He said, I feel so good about myself. This is the first time in 10 years I'm not taking a pill every day. So I'm not telling people what to do. All I'm saying is that if you want to take a second look at it, I think it's worth it. There are a lot of people who've been on antidepressants for a long time that when they get off it, they say, I didn't realize that I was numb. I didn't realize that I couldn't feel. You have to have a little bit of anxiety because that's what kind of pushes you into, ooh, this is uncomfortable. I need to change it.
Right.
If you're kind of flatlined, nothing's ever going to change.
Well, it's funny that you say that because I do have a good friend who was on something for quite a long time, and he
Right.
finally decided, he said, maybe it's not something that I can't control myself. So he finally decided on his own, and I'm not a medical doctor either. Talk to your doctor before you decide to go off something.
Right,
But he
exactly.
decided, he went to his doctor, he said, maybe I shouldn't try this for a while. And the doctor said, okay, it's up to you. And so he went off
How's he
the
feel?
antidepressants. He said a fog lifted. He said he feels now. He actually feels.
Yeah.
Rather than just, like you said, kind of flatlining and not having much emotion at all, where everything was all right, but he didn't have highs or lows. It was just...
See, the other problem that happens, Cindy, is that when you're diagnosed with depression, you wear this banner that says, I have depression. And people come into me all the time and they say, I'm borderline, I'm this, I'm that. When I first came on the show, I didn't realize that I was having little minor panic attacks. I was
on this show?
On this show. And I was so scared. And if I had gone to a doctor, he would have given me medication and he would have said, you have panic attacks. And I would have said, well, that's the reason I can't be on the air, because I have panic. I mean, I truly had panic attacks. I used to hyperventilate. The best part of the show was driving home. I used to think, oh my God, I did it. This is fabulous.
What a relief.
What a relief. I did it. The difference is that when you deal with your fears, when you're
Right.
able to feel your stuff, somehow, incrementally, you kind of work your way through this.
We've got another call. Kim from Largo is on the line. Good morning, Kim.
Are you
Hello.
there, Kim?
All right. Kim, can you hear us? Hi,
I think we lost Kim. Is she
Okay.
there?
Well, I guess we're having a hard time with our phones this morning, but I can tell you just in closing here that when I was probably about 15 and 16, you know, at that age when the hormones are just flying, I probably would have been diagnosed as depressed.
Me too.
And
I probably would have been diagnosed as a kid. I probably would have been taking Ritalin. I probably would have been taking a million different kinds of pills for a million different kinds of things. There is a way to get through this, and if you're willing to feel, I think
Right.
that most people can do it.
And exercise is a good way to
Well,
get the happy endorphins started. And like I said, not a medical doctor, just telling you what makes me feel good.
There you go.
Chandra,
You're
very
welcome. It's a
much.
pleasure.
And if you are interested in Chandra's book, Reality Works, her CDs, or you would like to sign up for Chandra's daily email, you can do that at her website. It is coachgirl.com, or you can give her a call at 813-348-9885. And right now, we would like to give you a chance to win Chandra's CD set. Just be the 8th caller at 1-800-664-8808, and we will send it out to you. And we'll also be giving you another chance to win it a little later on in the show. Good luck. Well, coming up, we'll find out if it's trash or treasure in our What